Lisa, I know that this morning in an email you said that you only had 5 weeks of prep. Was that somewhat daunting in this case?
It's
A
always
little. It's always daunting
Yeah.
when you have that little prep, but I had done it before on other shows, so I just felt like, well, you got to do what you got to do. We just dove right in.
Welcome to Inside the Set with SETDECOR, a series that focuses on the design and decor of the stories that excite us and ignite our imagination, where we discuss the collaboration between set decorators and production designers and hear first-hand accounts of how these works of art came to be, from their inception, ideas on a page, to completion, when we get to sit in the dark and experience them collectively.
Welcome to Inside the Set with Set Decor. I'm David Smith, Set Decorator, SDSA, and joining me are Lisa Sessions, Set Decorator, SDSA, and Clay Griffith, Production Designer, for a conversation about their joyful and collaborative work on the focus feature film, Song Sung Blue. Lisa and Clay, thank you for joining me.
glad to be here. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you here and also to talk about this really lovely movie. Clay, obviously it came to you first because that's always the pattern, correct?
Correct.
Had you worked with this director before?
Yes, I worked with Craig Brewer on a film called Dolomite Is My Name in the 2019, Lisa.
I think, yeah.
We both worked on it. But I had met Craig years before in just sort of an open-ended interview, and we both got along really, really well. Sort of like felt like we had a kinship. I went to school in the South in Tennessee. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. And then years later, Dolomite came along and we hit it off. Every time Craig's got a film, I want to do it.
And Lisa, obviously you've worked together with Clay several times, right?
Yeah, Clay and I go way back to 1994.
Right.
Seven, right?
Yeah.
Clay, you were a set decorator before
I
you.
was. Yeah.
And Lisa, did you work with him as a buyer?
I was a buyer on Seven with him, and then later when he became a designer, I became his decorator. And then I moved back east. He worked with other people, and then we sort of came back together on Jack Reacher.
Are you East Coast based now?
I am now, yeah. I work out of LA, I work out of 44, but I live in Virginia now, so yeah.
Okay. Was this movie a Local 52 movie?
It was.
Right. And were you able to join Local 52 or did you have to have someone shadow you or?
Well, I came in as 44, but I had an assistant decorator who was of the local, Roxy. And so I didn't have to have a shadow or anything. I think those were sort of bygone rules, I guess, in the day,
Right.
as long as I know I'm there.
Excellent. And Clay, how did you settle on New Jersey? Was it the incentive more so than Troy?
I wasn't given a choice. It was the incentive, but I did a lot of work researching Wisconsin, Milwaukee area. And I have to say, before I got to New Jersey, I kind of knew what I was looking for. And I was really pleasantly surprised by the locations that are really untouched and ungentrified that are there. It fit the time period perfectly. It was really kind of an embarrassment of riches with locations.
I've read some of the notes. I've seen your presentation. I read a wonderful email from Lisa this morning, which answered a lot of questions for me. Um, uh, so was the house initially presented itself? Did you see one and know that it was it, or did you see multiple houses and
Oh gosh. Well, we had started the conversation, Craig Brewer and I, with the studio about we want one thing we want to do. We want to be able to build the interior on stage. That didn't happen. So I ended up being in a car for quite a long time looking for this house. We had found several houses and lost them at the last minute. This one presented itself as a house that was about to be demoed.
uh-huh.
And I met with the owners. I told them what I wanted to do. They let us take out walls. I mean, it literally was like a standing set at a location. So it worked out really, really well. I think we had 12 or 14 days of shooting there, Lisa.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we took this whole wall out. We made it shootable. We put camera ports in it. It felt very lived in and very real. It had a natural patina to it from the get-go. And then we just sort of added our work to it to complete it.
And since you were gutting it and using it as a set and building it as opposed to building the interiors on stage, did you have to obey all the codes or were you able to sort of skirt some of that?
Oh no, We obeyed every code there was. We had it thoroughly checked out by studio safety and, all those kind of things and electrically permitted. And, we went through the whole 9 yards. The good thing is it was towards the end of the shooting schedule. So we found it about halfway through our prep. So we were able to put an art director there and just bird dog the set the entire time while we were doing work on it.
And Lisa, I know that this morning in an email you said that you only had 5 weeks of prep. Was that somewhat daunting in this case?
It's
A
all,
little. It's always daunting when you have that little prep, especially when everything's location. You're in a state you don't know very well.
Right.
We don't have the resources we do in LA, even though they do have amazing resources in New York and stuff like that. It's always daunting, but I had done it before on other shows, so I just felt like, well, you got to do what you got to do. We just dove right in.
yeah, I only had 7 weeks of prep. So it was like, okay, we hit the ground running.
If you're building the house and knowing that it's at the latter half of shooting, what about you, Lisa? Did that help you as well? Did you have time to acquire and dress?
We did and we didn't. Like, it was supposed to be even further back in the schedule, but they added more days to it and then pulled it up
Forgot about that.
because of the weather. Yeah, I didn't. So it's undaunting because, as you know, David, you're on a roll, you're doing all these other sets and you're in the rhythm, and then all of a sudden you sort of have to stop what you're doing because something's gotten pulled up.
Sure.
And you're redirecting everyone. So it helped and it didn't help. It's a give and a take. You sort of take good stuff out of it and then you just sort of do what you have to do. But
To add into that also, David, is that this location was probably the farthest away from our production facilities. It was a good hour and 40 minutes, Lisa.
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
It was in northern New Jersey in Old Tappan. But
Love
again, it worked out really well.
And if it's that far away, are you staying there for a couple of days in a motel or hotel? Or are you driving back and forth every day?
Driving back and
I was
forth.
driving back and forth every day, shooting and prepping, because we had other locations to facilitate and take care of. So I couldn't have the luxury of spending the night.
And poor Clay, set decorators in New York are very fortunate. We always get a Teamster to drive us around. So
Exactly.
I was very fortunate to have a Teamster pick me up at 4 in the morning or whatever time, and we'd head to the set.
It's a great perk.
It's a great perk.
I think it should be afforded to the designer as well.
I know. I felt really badly about that, Clay.
Well, I remember in my days of working in New York, the designer also could get a driver, but it's no longer a perk because we spend so much time on our phones, our iPads or whatever, and all this you're always in touch with someone. And it's just so much safer to have a driver. It's a great, it's a great convenience. Okay. So knowing that this is based on a documentary, the Bible was there essentially of the movie, the look of the movie.
Mhm.
Did that at any point hamper you because you couldn't find enough of what seemed right?
No, it never hampered us because early on in the film, Craig Brewer and I and Amy Vincent, the cinematographer, we sat down and talked about, we have this great document in front of us, an archive of these people's life. It was shot over 8 years. So instead of trying to imitate it, we decided just to interpret it and use the time period. We had condensed it into, I think, like 5 years, Lisa, or even less.
5, yeah.
And we just use it as a touchstone for the most part, as a reality check of what people's lives really were like when you are struggling to make ends meet. We didn't want it to look like the documentary. We were going to tell our story in a more theatrical way. Craig liked to call it, as our sort of buzzword, a working class fairy tale.
When I first saw the movie, not knowing that I was going to do an interview or anything, I just thought that you both really nailed it as not too precious, not too trashy, just the right economic level, the right time for the period. It just looks sensational, and I
I'm
congratulate
glad that came
both of you.
across. Thank you for saying that.
I'd heard that it was based on a documentary, but I'd never seen the documentary. But I just think both of you did a really, really terrific job. Lisa, did you buy most of the set dressing for the house?
Yes, I did. In New Jersey, there are a ton of amazing Habitat for Humanities, and you can pick up stuff for a song and the estate sales. everyone in New Jersey still has a full bar in their basement full of vintage stuff.
I've seen a lot
So
of this.
on the weekends, I would get out there and hit everything. Like that piano we got off Facebook Marketplace, and then we had our scenics paint it for us. We had our graphic girl make a design because Claire was very much into flowers and stenciling and things like that. So this was one of the pieces that we just want to carry over from each set, you know, to show that she was there, as opposed to like she took over his house. The piano came. So, and that was like a local find. So yeah, a lot of that stuff was just bought. Some of the lamps I think we rented from Knickerbocker, you know, and then some we carried over to the other set. But most everything in there, like that sofa I bought in Oklahoma off Craigslist and had it shipped out because I just thought it was so perfect for Kate Hudson as Claire, you know.
Lisa, how did we get that piano in that apartment? Was it a forklift?
We had a forklift and a lot of guys. And we had to get it there early because they wanted to do a rehearsal with it.
Oh, that
And
was
we're all
amazing,
about
yeah.
the piano working. And then Craig's like, no, I don't want it to work. We'll add that in later. Just make it not make any sound at all. Not realizing we could have just got it.
So did you got the piano then?
We didn't. We brought it's full on real McCoy.
And does Kate actually play keyboard?
I believe she does, but I think they did mute it on that just so they could put in their playback stuff later.
Okay, so you're shopping just like everything. You shop the entire world whenever you're doing something.
Yes.
It's hardly ever all locally sourced, no matter how much production wants you to use, things only within the state for the tax credit. It just never happens. But it always is amazing to me that we always find what we need, not like in real life, but
That's
It's
the magic
it's
of making
always-
movies.
it's always out there. I mean, my very first movie as a PA, I was supposed to find some German opera posters, and I could, it was back when you had to call around the world to find German opera posters, only to find them at a garage sale like a month later. Everything is out there. It's just sometimes it takes longer to find. Even like her bedroom furniture was almost an exact match from what the real Claire had. But we sort of searched around till we found the exact match and then bought it and arranged to have it brought over. So, yeah.
great. And Clay, you talked about that you had a different palettes for each of the characters. Can you just explain your palette and how it came about?
The cinematographer and I, Amy Vincent, we're both photography junkies, and we looked at a lot of stuff by Gary Winogrand, and there was another Fred Hurst, I believe, out of Vancouver, and we found these sort of mid-century palettes. And if we're shooting in the 1990s, I like to take it back to like 1970 because people of this socioeconomic level would never like be repainting their house. They would have been the color that it would have been in the 70s. So I sort of aimed their home life away from the stage in these sort of muted tones and earth tones.
Well, I noticed it with that in mind when I rewatched the movie last night, that when Claire is in bed, I just noticed that lovely shade of blue and how blue actually was very much Claire, which I had not noticed the first time. I particularly love the bedspread, Lisa, and also the shape of the headboard. I just thought both of those were really, really terrific.
Oh, great. I know Amy wishes I had had like 5 bedspreads to change out because they ended up in bed a lot. But we were very happy to find the things we did. I think I found that one in a estate sale in the basement of New Jersey somewhere. So.
And did you also find drapery? Was it all real and vintage?
It was all vintage. It was all casement fabric. A lot of it I found on eBay or Etsy and shipped in. And then I had a local draper at Brooklyn Studios sewed stuff together for us. So it was all vintage, but parts and pieces from everywhere.
Okay, so your closest location was what? Jersey City to Manhattan? Was that your closest location?
Yeah, that's where our office was Jersey City. And we had a location or two in town.
Yeah, we were all over the state.
What I love about this movie, and seeing it again for the second time, is Mike's opening monologue. And then it's revealed that it's an AA meeting. I think that just sets the tone for everything so nicely, and it's so well constructed. But also, I really loved the AA meeting, especially his home base.
It's weird to me. That's one of my favorite sets. And it was a Elks Lodge that we found in, I think it was Wayne, New Jersey.
Yep.
And it was just sort of like in a time capsule. It was perfect. When I walked in, I was like, oh, this has got to be it. This has got to be the place. And it had that lovely cream tone in the brick, which Milwaukee apparently is known as Cream City. Everyone
Uh,
laughed at me for that for a long time, but then they they understood what I meant. Yeah,
Something here.
this was in the basement of this Elks Lodge. And just the color of the chairs, the gold accents. Lisa brought in those drapes, and it just there, I don't know, there's just something timeless about it to me.
Lisa, you were able to find all of that as vintage fabric?
Yes. The two sets of drapes you see in that one photo, actually, when we did the scout, they were like, we're just going to see this one window, which we always know is not true. So I found enough to cover the two windows. And at the very last minute, Amy's going to see all the windows. So fortunately, I had bought all these like shears of different colors, all in our color palette. So I had them all on hand, and we were able just to cover all the rest of the windows. And I don't even think you can tell that we did that. But yeah, I was there on a ladder with all my set dressers at the last minute. But it looked good. And upstairs we had the casino. So it was that was like a really great location that Clay found.
And were the chairs in the location, or did you bring them
Yes.
in?
They were beautiful, aren't they? Like New Jersey is beautiful. I have those chairs. If I could have just used those chairs everywhere, every location had fabulous chairs like that. It was like the set dressing gift that just kept giving.
That's great. I think probably, I'm guessing, but you were not a very large budget, correct?
We were not. I wish I had the number in front of me, but we weren't. But we actually came in under budget mainly because we didn't have enough time or people to spend it all.
Yeah, it was a tight budget. With that in mind, when I was scouting locations, I was looking for places that had more to give than just four walls. You know, anything that had detail or even like those chairs, I was like, can we use this? Let's make it all work. And that came about too at the Wisconsin State Fair location, which has been in this people's family for 80 years or something like that. Like the grandson was running it now. It's been there since 1955. It had this beautiful patina to it. It was just a great place. It was a perfect backdrop for Claire and Mike to meet each other, especially at Carousel House. That was a blast.
So you constructed the Welcome to the Wisconsin State Fair.
Yeah, the sign, yeah. Our graphics, we brought that stuff in. There wasn't a whole lot of signage in this place on the exterior part of it, and he walks right in underneath the sign. So
How many days did you shoot here in this location?
want to say it was
Three.
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 I think it was three, 2 days and one night.
What was your weather like? You said you weren't prepared for rain, or you didn't always, sometimes rain cover had to happen. Were you in the fall, or?
We started shooting in October, I believe, right, Lisa?
Yeah. And on this location, remember, it got really cold and they weren't expecting it to be this cold and they were have to be outside. So at the last minute, some of the locations changed at this set because of the weather, because they just need to get the actors out.
Right on the ocean, so we were getting pretty radical temperature changes.
And whose idea was it to set up the performing area in the carousel section?
We had at one point, ultimately that became a decision between Craig Brewer, the director, Amy Vincent, and myself. At one point, there was two different stages. There was one outside and then this one inside. We started to realize it's like, why do we need to build two stages? We can just sort of redress this stage for each different act that comes up. And it worked out so well. It was such a magical place.
And you just mentioned redressing it for each act. Was that indeed on the day? Did you change it like 2 or 3 times, or?
No, I don't think we did it on the day. We had it scheduled out so that it could be switched over, you know, while they were outside shooting somewhere else the next day. And it actually, the scheduling in the film worked out very well for that sort of intricate and difficult change-ups of sets. I don't think we had any problems with that, did we, Lisa?
No, it was that was the one. It was right at the beginning. It was the first week of shooting, and they definitely had that one planned out pretty well.
Yeah.
Because we knew we had like a whole day to do the changeover for the different band.
And the second set was a little less complicated than the first. The first was the Legends act with all the people, all the imitators. Yeah. And the second one was the Esquires, was just Hugh on stage.
So, Lisa, you mentioned in your list of thank yous that I read very briefly, you had somebody doing the musical instruments.
Yes. Erin, one of my buyers, Erin O'Brien. So
Right.
she was sort of in charge of anything musical because we realized we just couldn't, between Roxy and I, we didn't have a tech advisor. We just needed somebody just to make sure that we got the right stuff on stage when we needed it. So Ron Finnick, at Phoenix, like helped us out. We sourced everything. We matched a lot of the same guitars that Mike Sardina had through Aaron's contacts. She's usually works in props, so she knew, and she'd been a musician before, so she was like my source for that.
And was the music live? Did they sing live, but probably also pre-recorded and sang over it or under the track?
But they did a pre-record session in Memphis beforehand, but they did do a lot of stuff live. It was pretty impressive. Hugh and Kate were just like, what?
Well, I think that shows in a couple of the scenes where they actually, really truly understand that they're connecting musically and that their voices are really blending, and it really works. Ages ago, I did a movie, a little TV movie with Goldie Hawn directing. And of course, Goldie is Kate's mother. And Kate and her brother Oliver were PAs on this. And we were in Texas. But I was watching the movie, and Kate at times looks so much like Goldie Hawn and reacts like Goldie Hawn. It's astounding to me. The smiles, the movement of the head, it's all just like that DNA traveling through. But I found it very charming. I saw an interview just recently about Song Sung Blue with, I think, Hugh Jackman on CBS Morning News. And he was talking about, because of seeing Kate sing on CBS Sunday Morning, he knew that Kate was the right person for it. And that's how it came about. These things are so providential. It's always magic how all this happens. I love what we get to do and all of that. If you're shooting in a house for 14 days, how was that? Did you make friends with all the neighbors?
We had a really top-notch, wonderful location manager and her team. They had people in the neighborhood that would walk around and talk to people. That we had been sort of covering that for the whole time that we were prepping and letting them know what was going to happen when we were shooting. And we had no issues. Everybody was great. They loved us being on the street. Again, we weren't like a huge, gigantic company, but I think that the location department really planned it out well as far as not having intrusive interaction with neighbors.
As we know, when you're first scouting, it's, like 5 people come around and say, oh, can you use your house? And then it grows to 25, and then it goes to 60, and then it goes to more than 100, depending on shooting days and all that. So I always say it's set dressing. We were often the first in before the company, and of course the last out. So we get to hear all the excitement at the beginning and all the grumbling at the end about,
I will say the crew was grumbling towards the end because it started to get really cold in November, just like the last few days we were there. Like, it was, when you're showing up at 5 in the morning and you've got 4 layers on and you're standing outside because we're not on a soundstage. But we got through it. Everybody loved the project so much that Lisa and I and Angela Stauffer, my art director, we'd look at each other and say, remember why we're here.
And then just like the 5 or 7 weeks of prep, that goes by so fast. And then, of course, the shooting, you think, oh my God, well, it's 28 days or 48 days or whatever. And you think, that's a long way off. But then it goes by very quickly because you're accomplishing all this work. What was one of your favorite sets, each of you?
Oh, Clay, you go.
I gotta say, I've seen the film 3 or 4 times now, and there's not one set or location that I thought that we didn't do really well with. I'm not trying to self-pat my back, but I think the Thai restaurant, that's one of my favorites. I said the AA meeting was one of my favorites also. The Wisconsin State Fair, her dream sequence, their house and her apartment. I mean, they all weighed equally with each other in my mind.
And Lisa?
Well, I would have said Charm Thai as well. I love that set. But I don't know. I felt very close to her apartment, I guess. Just trying to sort of find the nuances of her with her kids as this woman who's pretty much living out of a suitcase. Like, everything she owns is stuffed in a back room of this little teeny apartment. She's living above a garage. I felt very personal about the whole thing. But the dream sequence was also one of my favorites just because it was so out of the blue. And I remember just being on that scout going, well, we're in a dream sequence. Let's just do black tablecloths with sparkles in it, and it'll be very magical. And when we got the set put together, I was like, it's exactly what I thought it would be. I thought it was very magical. for that little scene. It was very special for me.
And you both mentioned Chantai, which I thought also was a terrific set. Was that a working location?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was
it was an active open restaurant. Obviously, they closed down for shooting and let us, work our magic in the room with the stage and redressing the whole place. They were lovely people who owned it too. They were completely mesmerized that there was a movie company shooting in their restaurant, and we kept the name. That was the name of the real restaurant, was Charm Thai, and it was like, let's just, it's perfect. It's a lovely space.
How many days were you shooting?
There's two, I think, in there.
I think it was just two.
Yeah.
Just two.
This movie was very much run and gun. The only place we were at longer than 2 days was, 2 or 3 days at the most, was when we were at the house, at Mike and Claire's house.
And then, okay, so talk about the wedding.
Oh, the wedding. They had a wedding at the state fair. They actually got married in one of the tents, and they performed like in another tent. So it was like a state fair tent. So we pretty much just grabbed some of the elements of that and brought them into our space that we had, which was this beautiful, it was a Ukrainian center, wasn't it, Clay?
Yeah, the Ukrainian family home. I believe that's what the name of the building was. It was I walked in there and I was like, we got to shoot here. That mural existed. It was a Ukrainian artist. I think he painted it in 1959. It was just, the whole room had such great patina and, to me felt like Milwaukee. I don't know why, but it just did. And it was a wonderful place to shoot the wedding in.
I feel like all the locations have the same palette in them as well. Like, David, if you looked at look at this Ukrainian place, look at the casino, which was another really cool set because we had to bring in all the slot machines. They all sort of have the same patina, this like burgundy red and this cream and these browns and the green. It's like they have a life of their own. It's like we touched them all, but we didn't.
That was the plan.
But you were smart enough to choose them,
Yeah, I think the locations, these are two opposite ends of the stage. There was a stage at one end and then the mural at the other. Yeah, there was just something timeless about these locations, and I took a lot of color cues from them because, we didn't have this huge paint department to repaint entire locations, but kind of had to find things that worked together. And then Lisa completely complemented it with all the set dressing.
And I think that this is actually one of the sets, Clay, that we were on the other end of New Jersey. And I was like, I'm not going to get back to Jersey City to look at this before the end of the day. And so we were doing video time dressing, as you know how that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And David, I'm sure you've shot in New Jersey, but the traffic there.
And how many different venues did you go to shoot for the performance acts?
We did a funny thing like we did in Dolomite Is My Name, and I would find a location and walk through it with Craig Brewer, the director, and we would say, what if he knows what he wants to shoot. He knows every angle he wants to shoot, which is great, and he knows what the scene is. So I think one of those bars, we shot in 4 different corners of it for 4 different bars. And then, we did that a couple of times. One of the bars had an upstairs bar and a downstairs bar, so we shot both of those all at the same time, and we shot the outside. So there's 3 locations, 3 sets in one location. We sort of aimed to do that with most of the performances.
And Lisa, you talk about that you used rose brand quite a bit, I think, right? For drapery?
Yeah.
Rose Brand was our friend on this film.
Yes, they were.
Well, aren't they New Jersey based?
Yeah, they are. So
I mean, I think that's their home.
pretty convenient.
Yeah, exactly.
Production was happy.
So they supplied you with all the pipe and drape?
A lot of it, yeah. There was a place called Drape Kings I used, and then Rose Brand. A lot like the sparkle drapes for the dream sequence. They had to special make all the drapes for the dressing room at the state fair. They made based on our colors. Charm Tie, I think those were rentals. Yeah, so it was like between the 2 places, we got everything. Like all those were special made. I think these lights, even on the stage, I probably didn't say, but I think Practical Props sent them to me from LA. So
The footlights?
yeah, the lights.
Are the table lights?
The footlights
The
and the
footlights.
table lights, I think I got from City Knickerbocker, yeah, in New Jersey. So
Right.
I sort of reached out to my LA places that I could get stuff from.
Of course.
Didn't have time to get stuff shipped out mainly, so we just found what we could. But they have a lot, so it's great. Yeah, those are some of my favorites. The little lampshades when she walked on that stage through the curtain. At one time, she was supposed to walk through the bathroom, you know, when she walks through the smoke, it's supposed to have, you were supposed to have sparkles there as well. And then it was supposed to go into that, which I think we missed in the final cut, but this was a beautiful set.
And where did you do this?
It was at a ladies club, like a women's club in a little town, one of the beautiful little towns in New Jersey.
I think it was above Montclair. I can't
Oh
remember.
yeah, that's right, Montclair.
Did you do 2 locations a day, or were you pretty much like in one location and shoot it out and move on?
We'd have like 3 different setup or 3 different sets. Yeah, like there were days that we had like the dentist's office and then
Which was right across from the bar, so we just walked across the parking lot. So we tried to keep all the locations as tight as possible. You know, once we went through the schedule and saw what everything is, that became part of our puzzle pieces to figure out.
So you were never on a stage at all for this, right?
no.
Nope.
No, never in an empty warehouse doing a set.
Nope.
No. So everything was a practical location, and altering some of that, or maybe doing something else in the location that it wasn't supposed to be there, you know, like they're doing the four different venues in one bar.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Always tricks of the trade, you know. When we go on location, I think we learn the area so fast that we know as much within a week as some of the people who've lived there for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
yeah.
We found Claire's apartment set was over an old garage in Matawan, New Jersey. And at one point there was a scene where we were supposed to be in a garage, and that scene got cut. And somebody, I think it might have been a location person, said, "Do you guys want to look at this apartment above the garage?" And of course we went up there, and Craig and Amy and we were all like, "Oh my gosh, this place is unbelievable." And I said, just, I want to be clear. There's only one stairway up on the inside, one on the outside. We have to make this decision together. It's not going to be me telling you to do it because I don't want to be killed later on. But it worked out fine. It was very tight, but it as you can see in the scene, it's wonderful.
Well, you know, I mean, there is the technology today is so small compared to what it was 25 years ago, but it's still schlepping up, you know, a company schlepping up the same staircase and all wanting to be there at the same time at the very beginning and all out at the same time, being the first out. I mean, but sometimes if a location is right, it's worth the suffering, isn't it?
Yes.
I truly believe that. I've always believed that. You know, you see a lot of the shooting crew will get there and start looking at me and the location people's like, "Who picked this?" Like, you know, "Do you see the staircase? We got to kick the camera up that." I was like, "Yeah, I know you do. Sorry." But that's what we do.
Was there anything that you thought, "Oh my, I'm never going to be able to find this," or something didn't show up? Was there anything that threw you off?
Well, if it did, I've blocked it out of my brain. There's always that. I mean, you know how it is. There's always that like, "Oh my gosh, am I going to get this done?" It was more about like time and not having time, you know, worrying about, for instance, the Pearl Jam show.
What's a Pearl Jam?
You don't know who Pearl Jam is?
I guess we're opening for Pearl Jam.
We had pretty much like a day to change it over from that show to the finale show. It's stuff like that. Like, are we going to have every piece there we need because we're dressing this on a Sunday? And if I don't have it, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble because I'm not going to be able to find it. But I mean, luck was with us. I mean, like, I don't know, the stars were aligned, everything worked out, everything was where it was supposed to be, when it was supposed to be. Yeah, really lucky, really grateful.
And what about the hospital?
That was also a hospital. That was a real location in Wayne, not far from the AA meeting and the casino. And it was a wing of a hospital they weren't using anymore. They had some stuff, the rest we rented from Alpha Medical to bring in. So, and then blinds and stuff like that. I mean, this was definitely a show where we worked a lot with lighting. Danny McCabe and those guys, like, they were amazing. We would sit down, we'd talk about Fresnels, we'd talk about what lights, we'd try to get real vintage lights they could see on camera. Like, all those were all very like collaborative. And the hospital was one of those where they had to build these special boxes for the window because they had to do different lighting at different times, day for night, stuff like that. You know, we brought most everything in. And then just trying to go back in time and get the beds that are period beds, but don't look like they're, you know, 40 years old.
Right. And so does Alpha have, they have a place in New Jersey or New York?
They have a place in New York, yeah.
And
It's not like it's not as big as the LA store or the New York, but they had some stuff.
right. Were you any LED or were you all incandescent?
All incandescent.
Yeah. And did you have to supply the bulbs or
They got the
your
bulbs.
department?
They-
They did.
Except for at the fair, we brought in all the colored bulbs and stuff like that for the fairgrounds. Like I probably had more bulbs than we ever needed. Light Bulbs Unlimited was my friend
Right.
and tipped out like every color possible. And we had a fixture guy also who would help change over stuff and do stuff so they could use it.
The fixture guy, did they do any strips or did they always do a bulb? Because it
Bulb.
always drives me crazy when they do the strips and they destroy the integrity.
Yeah, tearing apart all the light. Like, why bother buying a light fixture when they're going to tear it apart?
Right.
No, there was, everyone tried to stick pretty true because Amy she really wanted to have like the real deal on camera. And even certain lights that I was like, are you sure you're going to see that light? It's on top of a telephone pole. We still got like the real floodlights, the real period floodlights that they could use. And sometimes they put in their own stuff anyway, but at least if you saw the housing, it was going to be the real,
Right.
thing.
Well, it all looks so good. It's all so real, which I really, really like. So Clay, did you always want to be a production designer? When you even from the beginning as a set decorator?
No, in the very beginning, the first film I worked on was with Jonathan Demme on Something Wild. And I sort of wanted to become a director after being around him, and I just love storytelling in general. But once I got in the art department, there was so much spirit about making films and finding what you need to find to make a set work, and the set tells a story as well. So I was like, oh, I don't need to be a director. I could do this. So I worked my way up through, from being an art department assistant to a set dresser to a set decorator on, wasn't Dirty Dancing, it was something else. Maybe, no, it was Dirty Dancing. Yeah. And loved decorating. I just loved it to death. And I started working with some designers who I sort of went to school on to see what you had to do to be successful in designing. And it just it was a natural move for me to go from decorating to designing because I really liked controlling the entire image of a set. So I sort of learned from the best and the worst of people, and you know what to do and what not to do.
Lisa, any thoughts of your bumping up down the line?
No, I've done a couple little things before production design, but I have to say, I think I would really miss the hands-on getting into the set, diving. I even miss sometimes being a set dresser, like when we were on 7, Clay stuck me in John Doe's apartment and said, here's a desk. I want it to look like this. And I spent all day working on a desk, and I miss that sometimes, but no, I appreciate what Clay does. I admire Clay. He's been my mentor for years. But he can production design, and I will continue decorating.
But also, I mean, if you've worked together so much, it's such a comfort level because each of you know how each other think, and you have common experiences and together, and it just pays off. All of that working back and forth and being together, it just adds another layer of texture and ease, I think.
Completely. And the shorthand, when you have very little prep and you're in a state you haven't worked in before, at first they wanted me to hire everyone local. And I was like, I'm bringing Lisa and I'm bringing my art director, and that's not a conversation I'm going to have. And I won that battle because we had all worked with Craig before. It is worth everything you just said, the nuance, the texture. It's all like we've already got it in our heads, and we know what we want to do. So that's the joy of working with Lisa.
And the same with Clay. I mean, I'm so lucky because Clay and I do have that shorthand. He'll let me just walk into his office because we know we have so little prep. I can just walk in and say, what about this? What about this? And he's like, yes, no, yes, no. And then I walk out the door, and people just looking like, did she really just do that? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because sometimes that's all it takes. I mean,
I don't need a whole meeting to talk about the 2 things I need one little quick answer on.
Right, exactly. You already have done pre-selections before you go there because you know what will work with him and what won't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, at least that's been my experience when I've worked with someone that I've worked with a lot. It's like, okay, this will never fly. I'm not even going to bring it to the table. Not part of the discussion.
Try.
Yeah.
I try
Every once in a while.
And he's like,
That's back in the day when we used to use, Polaroids. Like,
Yes.
What about this? What about that? I was like, no, not that one. No, not this one.
Well, but it's the same now, isn't it? It's because it's your iPad or your phone and you're just, zipping through, and it's like, okay, they're no longer on the shower curtain ring. You know.
I'm constantly saying, can you turn the brightness up on your screen? I can't see it.
Both of you feel as though you did a really good job, which I think is true, and that you weren't disappointed in anything. I mean, at some point you saw most of everything in Claire and Mike's house, right?
Yes, no, you didn't see, they had her daughter's bedroom again. Her daughter was a really important part of the movie. And
Wow,
so to
great.
see her bedroom from one place, where she lived with her mom, and then see her, she had this bigger bedroom and more things because she was actually established and she actually had a home to live in. And it was very homey, her bedroom, once she got in with Mike's house, because it was a real house. It wasn't a place that they were maybe going to live for the next month until they got kicked out. There were things I wish I had seen more of. Like, I think it was because we were limited by the size of the location. We had all these details in of how Claire changed Mike's house. Like, she stenciled places. There were things that you saw in the documentary that we then put up in Mike's house so that you saw that she was integrating her stuff in part of his house. I would have liked to have seen more of that. But I know it was really hard for the on-set dressers. It was just a big, they went back and forth in that location. They were never able to stay continuity wise and scheduled in, movie time. They kept going back and forth. So I think there were probably things I would have liked to have seen more of, but I now just want to watch the movie and enjoy it, honestly, because I enjoyed everything I saw. I enjoyed the music, but I'm so much about looking at like, oh, what did I not see? What did they cut out? What did they not like? Oh, dang, I missed that. But ultimately, it was just such a great experience to like in that movie, watch that movie and go, oh my God, it was everything I wanted it to be, really. I was satisfied, and that's really what counts, I think.
I mean, if indeed they're in the house for 14 days and space is limited and not being able to shoot it in continuity, that's all hard. It does make our jobs, but again, that you can't win those battles. So you just, it's
Yep.
it's controlled by the
that
camera.
point in my career, I can let go.
Exactly.
We had constant communication, Lisa and I and the art directors, about what was going to happen the next day. So we were always very well prepared. I think I only got one 4 a.m. phone call from the second AD saying, oh, we're going to do the stunt today. And I was like, you need to give me a day's notice before you do that. But yeah, it all worked out well. I don't think there was much that I missed. I'm just really happy with how the entire film turned out.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so how many days did you shoot?
We were scheduled for 30 and we ended up at 33.
33. 3 whole more days, Yeah.
It came down to that, and the studio was sort of, they gave us great support, but they were like, this is what it is. And we were like, we can't finish the story if we end here. And that, Craig had that battle and won it, and it was all the better for it.
Right. But you were not a tier movie, were you?
No.
No. So, which is a mercy.
It was for sale, but that was, it wasn't a tier.
Yeah. Lisa, any other SDSA business members that you would like to call out that you used?
Oh my gosh. Just in general, I use all of them. The ones I listed were the ones that we used, in the New York area. If I were in LA, I'd use every SDSA member I could, but I think that's all of them.
I love City Knickerbocker. They were one of my favorite haunts when I worked in New York. It was just great.
I think we did get some stuff from Newell too, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, City Knickerbocker is beautiful. I mean, State was a wonderful experience to go through.
State Supply, absolutely.
Yeah. And Phoenix, loved Phoenix. I mean, that was, like I said, he was all in. He had just done the Dylan movie, so he had the right stuff. We had, he was always like, anytime like all of a sudden lighting needed some more Fresnels, or can we get another tree or anything, like they had it on the dock ready for us. Super appreciative,
Had you filmed stages before? You did, Clay, because you did Almost Famous, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Were you on Almost Famous too, Lisa? No.
No, but we did roadies together, Clay and I. So we did stages every week.
5 stages every week.
And then Dolomite, we had little stages, not musical, but the sort of the same thing, little different venues, little different stages. I've really gotten to know music a lot.
I love that you were talking about the Fresnels and the trees and all of that, because that's how I came up. I came up through the theater and then got into television. It just drives me crazy when the stage lighting is wrong in a movie. I go crazy. I did something years ago and they had television lights instead of stage lights, and it was just like,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
you
that's-
know, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
Their lighting designer for the stage shows, or she did an amazing job.
Catherine Sees.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
It looks so real, looks so vintage. It was so, I don't know, it just blew me away.
And whose idea was that to have a separate lighting person do that?
Danny McBride, our gaffer, mentioned it to, and I think Amy Vincent also said, hands up. It's like I could use some help with this kind of stage design because the Ritz Theater is
yeah.
no small thing. And we had two different lighting setups. We had a lighting setup for Pearl Jam, Forever in Blue Jeans, and then we had a lighting setup for the finale scenes, Suleiman, and they had it literally just one day to change those over. That was the toughest location, I believe.
And the theater that you were shooting in for Pearl Jam, and then that's the same theater as the finale, correct?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we shot them back to back.
Back to back, same day? Did you have a 2-day
No,
shoot?
it was.
Might change.
I think it might have been a 2 or 3 day run there, but it was so tight getting in and out because we were coming up on Christmas and the theater had a schedule. They had other acts coming in and they're like, "You've got 3 days to do this." We're like, "Can we get this done?" But that's the one thing that it stressed me a bit on this show was trying to get in and out of that theater in a timely manner.
Lisa, you didn't have to change any drapery there, did you?
No, I was
No.
very fortunate. They actually had the right stuff.
Okay. It's a live performance theater and definitely not a movie theater. So,
Yes.
Yeah, we actually had to put a thrust in for the finale scene after we shot the Pearl Jam stuff, and the carpenters worked overnight to get it done because I was like, "Can we get this done?" I didn't sleep much that week.
they had a pit that you could open up and do the lift, or
They
did
had
you-
a pit. It was a bit of a camera cheat of how it worked because there was no actual lift there anymore.
right?
Special effects, we did a whole thing. I forgot what they were using, but it worked out really well.
It was in the dressing room. If you saw the dressing room scene downstairs for the finale show, that's where the
It was the basement. Yeah.
mechanism ended up being put. So we sort of had to redress and undress for those scenes.
Well, it sounds like the whole thing was done very efficiently and that you used, as you said, you didn't quite spend all the money because you didn't have time. But
Wish I had.
yeah, but you didn't give back a lot, did you?
No.
No. Yeah. It's always, you don't want to give back too much, but you
No.
also, if you're saving money, you also want to let them know early on that you're saving it,
Exactly. I know that game. I know that, like, yes, I'm saving money. You couldn't have this back. Or
Right.
no, I try to get it down to the dime. I worked for Peg Cummings.
Oh, yes, yes.
And she taught me how to budget a movie, like down to like the penny of how many pencils you were going to have on the set. So when I have the time to budget, I can do it really good. But this one is like, here's what we have, here's what we did. And it worked out.
Well, Lisa and Clay, it's been a great conversation, and I've really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you for this, and congratulations on the movie.
Thank you, David. Much appreciated.
Good luck in award season.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Speak with you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Inside the Set with SETDECOR. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, SETDECOR.com.